Welcome to the continuing conversation around art, placemaking, and how to create meaningful experiences in the built environment. I'm your host, Martha Weidman, CEO and co-founder of 9.Arts. Our guest on the show today is Stacey Stegman, the Senior Vice President of Marketing, Communications, and Customer Service at Denver International Airport. And I'm excited to have her on the show to tell us more about the value of art in the airport, how art can elevate the passenger experience and provide entertainment and even educational enrichment. The Denver International Airport has a tremendous art collection, and at 9.Arts, we're very grateful to have had the opportunity to work with Denver International Airport to create a renewed public art and exhibitions master plan for the airport, to think strategically about how to build arts and cultural experiences into that space as they grow and accommodate more passengers into the future. So check out this episode. I think you'll enjoy hearing Stacey's perspective. Enjoy the show. Stacey Stegman, welcome to ...
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. We're excited to have you on the show today. Could we just begin with an introduction? Tell our listeners a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and why it matters.
Excellent. Yes. So my name is Stacey Stegman. I am with Denver International Airport. So I am the Senior Vice President that basically gets to oversee all the fun things that we do at the airport. So in my group is communications, marketing, customer service, customer experience, and then public art and events. So a lot of the things that people experience as they're going through the airport that hopefully are the fun things like our ad campaigns, and then certainly the experiential work that we do.
Well, so much has been changing and shifting at the airport over the past couple of years, but it's exciting to see that art has maintained its role as a significant part of the experience at Denver International Airport in particular. And the permanent collection there has more than 30 works of art worth more than $13 million and an array of rotating art exhibitions. And it was named by a U.S. Airport for Art in USA Today's 10 Best Reader's Choice in the Travel Contest. So one of the best airports for art in the country. So for the airport projects that you're involved in right now, what excites you?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I mean, I look at the art at the airport. One is it's just been classic, right? It has really stood the test of time. When you figure much of this art was selected or put in the early 1990s, and just has continued to grow. It's been so fun watching it still have meaning, and watching people that travel through the airport still come seek it out. But what's really exciting for me right now is what we have on the horizon and what's to come. We are wrapping up our selection process for 4 new pieces. The airport has been undergoing an expansion the last couple of years. We're adding 39 new gates. So at the end of every concourse on A, B, and C, we're extending them, telescoping them out on the end, and we have great art getting ready to go into all these new spaces. So the selections have been made, but we haven't, fully contracted with the artist, and so all of these things are going to be announced soon.
And of course, the airport expansion project is a major renovation, and the art selections are so important because so many people will see them. In fact, I was just reading that there are 69 million passengers traveling through the airport. That was the stat from 2019. How has that fluctuated over time, and how do you view your role as one of the public art ambassadors for all of these travelers?
Yeah, isn't it crazy to think that many people? So that was pre-pandemic with 69 million passengers. That year, 2019, we dropped down like every other airport during the pandemic to about 5% or we had a 95% drop in traffic. We're crawling back. We're one of the top recovering airports right now. We're expecting to end this year somewhere in the neighborhood of 72.5, 72.8 million passengers. So we're fully recovered. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's been great. But as you think about that, you have people Some, that are able to connect quickly through, but you have others that spend hours and hours at the airport, and
Mhm.
you want to give them an experience that they enjoy so that they're not, looking at our airport as just a miserable place to be. We emerged from the pandemic as the third busiest airport in the world. And
Wow.
that, yeah, it's crazy. And because we are largely a domestic airport, I mean, we have international traffic, but our location in the center of the country means that we have a lot of domestic flights connecting through our airport. And so, that means people do have some time to spend, and we want to make sure that they have an incredible experience. And art is a big part of that.
Of course. Well, what a unique opportunity because you have people who are, might be in one place, like you said, for multiple hours on a time. And where else in our lives do we have this kind of consistent, known opportunity where you might have, people that are just engaged and waiting in this space? I feel like pre-internet, we all had a lot of time to kind of sit and wait and think, and you might just, yeah, you might just sit in a place and wait for a while.
Yeah.
And at an airport, that's a pretty commonplace opportunity. You're going to have to get through security. Some people might be really stressed. Some people might be traveling for the holidays. Some people might be traveling for a fun vacation, or someone's going to see a loved one. And a whole array of people with varying emotions or purposes, from business to personal, are coming through this one place. And I would love to know your thoughts around the value of art in an airport and the impact that it can make on a traveler.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we can even, fully quantify how important it is. If you look at the fundamentals of an airport, or how they were designed at the beginning, of time when people started flying. You would get a seat, maybe grab a newspaper, maybe get, a snack, off of an old burger, a hot dog. It certainly wasn't the type of cuisine we have today, and you just waited to board your plane, because the whole purpose of that amazing experience was your plane trip. Remember, they used to give you great, I mean, some would say great meals, some would question that, but you would have meals, cocktails, you would have, the flight crews dressed to the nines. And so that experience was all about that. And the airport experience didn't matter. Now that's changing. Now that it's really a bit of a shift. You see more options for flight that are, lower cost, not as many frills. And so the airport has really stepped up to take that role of giving you an elevated experience. And so, as you're walking through an airport, it's not about just sitting, in an old black chair and looking at a white wall. Now we're doing things to entertain you. And art is what gives us the color and the energy in many of these spaces that in the past were just blank.
Mm. Well, it's such an incredible opportunity too, especially given the magnitude of the space, right? We're not talking about just putting a simple, you know, 6 foot by 6 foot painting on the wall. That would look like a postage stamp in the scale of the airport. So a lot of these are custom commissioned installations that are, quite immersive. So when you're in them and you see them, you can really almost feel like you're somewhere else.
Absolutely. It's an opportunity, I think, for us to showcase, the Denver and Colorado history and culture. And even though you may have international artists that don't live necessarily in Denver in some of these spaces, many of them spend time getting to know our community, getting to know our culture. And so you see that reflected in much of the art. A lot of the, early murals had to do with, some of the region's rich history,
Mhm.
some of the diversity of the people that, lived or settled in the area to, begin with. And then all the way up to, new pieces that give you sort of a more, like you said, more of an immersive, digital experience or something like that. There's such a variety. But it's so important to us to be able to sort of reflect that diversity of art. We have high expectations for art in our airport because of how the airport started and how art has contributed to the brand of the airport.
Well, and I think it goes beyond. There's obviously the art and the visual uh, experience there, but the Denver International Airport has also done an amazing job of bringing local culture to the forefront through food. So it's there in food, art, music. You go through the A terminal, you'll hear indigenous music playing. You can stop through and get tamale from La Casita. You can go have a great food experience at Root Down, which is one of our local restaurants. So, it's really I think a whole encompassing approach that it seems like you've taken.
That's exactly what it is, and I appreciate that you noticed that because we have been working hard to try to showcase a lot of what Denver and what Colorado is about, and that does include food and music and art, as you said. It's sort of all of the above. When you have someone that is flying through, we have people maybe that are traveling that have never even really experienced snow, and
Mm.
so when we added outdoor patios on the end of our concourses, it's because we wanted to even recognize that that's part of the local culture here. People sit outside, even sometimes in cold weather, with a fire pit having a cocktail. And we wanted to be sure that anyone traveling to this airport gets to experience as much as they possibly can if they don't have the opportunity to head outside of the airport.
Absolutely. Well, you've got that indoor outdoor component. You've got great food, great art, great culture, really emphasizing the local environment. Back to the art program at Denver International Airport specifically. Uh, can you tell us one of your favorite installations that's there for people who may have not been there before?
Well, the most obvious one that I'm completely obsessed with is Mustang by Luis Jimenez. That is, our big blue Mustang sculpture that is outside as you approach the airport. We really tend to think of him as just this guardian of the airport. He's fierce, and I think there's nothing better. I've not seen anything better at any other airport. Very controversial. A lot of myth since it was unfortunate that the artist passed away while working on the sculpture. But I think that's probably my number one. But there's so much else kind of at the airport. I mean, we have amazing brass medallions in the floor that talk about Colorado's rich mining history. We have the Tanguma murals that send such a positive community message. That for one, that a very misunderstood mural is Children of the World Dream of Peace. And I think a
Yes.
lot of people, look at that mural and they, see death and destruction and get, kind of a scary feeling from it. But when you really start to understand the art and understand it's quite the opposite. It's about, what happens when war and death and destruction go away and you start to live in peace and harmony and, recognizing and appreciating diversity and everybody kind of working together for the greater good. These are the things that we see, and we're like, these are amazing messages that we have sprinkled all throughout the airport.
So, for those of you who might be traveling through Denver International Airport, those murals are near baggage claim. Which side is that on?
Oh
On both
gosh,
sides?
we have one on the east side and one on the west side.
So
They're
there's
actually on both sides of the terminal.
perfect. So on both sides near baggage claim, you can see those murals, and the Luis Jimenez is actually on the drive in. So about how many miles would you say outside of the Denver International Airport is that
Gosh,
installation?
probably maybe
Maybe 1 mile.
mile. Yeah,
Can't
yeah.
miss
Right.
it.
No, you can't. He's got very bright red eyes, and that definitely catches your attention.
Absolutely. Well, there's been so many stories that have evolved around the airport for many of the installations, kind of creating mythology, you might say, or its own mystery around the airport, and in some cases, even conspiracies. And some of the more recent marketing efforts from the airport have been to embrace that history. Could you tell us a little bit more about what some of those kind of myths and legends of the Denver International Airport are and which ones are true?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think, the one that is just mind boggling to me is the people who believe that there, is this whole underground bunker system under the airport where the world's elite are going to go when the world ends. And it just boggles my mind sometimes for people to think that we could cover up and hide such a thing when we have, 72 million people walking above us and nobody's going to notice. There's that's fun. There are a system of tunnels under there, but really not exciting. They're moving baggage around and it's busy. It's a busy place, but just for that purpose. The others, one of them that is to me kind of frustrating is, we have 6 runways, north, south, east, and west that go. And some have suggested that the runways were built to look like a swastika. I can say that is 100% false. We are on the eastern plains of Colorado. It's windy. Having runways in this configuration allows us to maximize being able to land and take off planes because we can change directions of runways at any given time. So it gives you that ultimate flexibility. There's, others, as we talked about the art, because, of Mr. Jimenez dying while he made that. So there's strange things being talked about there. We have a time capsule from when the airport was built that people come from all over trying to search out because it talks about the New World Airport Commission. But it's the New World Airport Commission, not New World Airport. A lot of it is semantics. Yeah. And so, there's just more and more all the time. I had an inquiry this week about people thinking there's a bunch of underground buildings. And what, we found out is there were a lot of temporary buildings that were put in place when the airport was built. That's because you had to construct it and you had to house people in those buildings. Those have since gone away. They weren't just put underground, but it's amazing. It's amazing all the time, the things that you hear.
Well, I love that the marketing campaign for the Denver International Airport has really embraced some of those theories and turned them into kind of a humorous play on some of the concepts that people think are true, but clearly are just myths.
Yep, absolutely.
One of my favorite installations is Terry Allen's Notre Denver, the bronze gargoyles that are in the baggage claim areas. And so when you see them, it's the luggage, and the luggage has popped open, and coming out of the luggage are these two cute but very realistic looking gargoyles made in bronze, and they sort of watch over. To me, they're the guardians of the baggage claim area. And if ever I lose something, that's who I want to talk to. They are currently in storage for construction, if I remember correctly. And that kind of begs the question, how is construction going? I know there's been a lot of fits and starts, and with 72.8 million people coming through, I'm sure that you get asked that question all the time. But could you give our listeners an update?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned those. Those are one of my favorites as well. So construction of our Great Hall, which is underway right now, ultimately will be done in 2028-ish, 2027 potentially, but it's right around that time frame, which seems like a long ways out. But the thing that will be great about this is we're opening sections along the way. So it's not like the construction walls are just staying up the whole time. As an area gets completed, the walls are coming down. We had to do it. Our terminal was built for 50 million people.
Wow.
We're expecting to get to 100 million in the next 8 to 10 years.
Wow.
So this allows us to extend the upper level, add square footage. We're making a lot of changes to our security so that we can provide a safer and more efficient security experience. Anyone that's been to Denver knows you're kind of down there in a fishbowl. That's not ideal in today's environment. We were never meant to have security there. That was something that happened post 9/11 when we had to kind of shoehorn it in. And this is giving us a chance to right that, make it safer. and have people come in on the level that you get dropped off on. Immediately, if you want to check your bag, you do that, and then you can go right through security, and it's going to be so much better in the end. And so you're starting to see those finishes now, and it opening, and it's just bright and airy, and it's going to be beautiful in the end.
Oh, the sparkle floors are just killer. I love seeing them. It feels so shiny and fresh and new. And even the wayfinding, it's just really easy to, see things out ahead of you. Like the new terminal that I went through, bathroom signage, right? I mean, those are the things you don't really think about, but when they're done well, it makes it really easy to navigate through an airport. And the gorgeous flooring in there really makes the space feel very clean and bright. And I really think that's how it feels when you arrive in Colorado. You've got the white snow-capped mountains and a really bright sky. And I think the new design really reflects our home city.
Great. I would agree. I love it too.
Well, we had the privilege at Nine Dot Arts to be able to partner with Denver International Airport on the renewed public art and exhibition program that we worked together on, that long-term plan. Could you help our listeners understand a little bit more about this program and its significance long-term for the airport?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys were a great partner in helping us develop our master plan, which is so important to really start to think ahead, especially when it comes to arts and exhibits at the airport, because, as I mentioned, we are growing so fast. And so everything is moving so quickly. And so when you start to think about art or exhibits, you have to really think, what is the best place and locations for these? And what would make the most sense in the airport environment? The airport environment is tough. It's busy. You have people dragging bags, and you have to be really thoughtful about how do you create that excitement and awareness and sense of place with art, while at the same time respecting the operational needs of an airport and the commercial needs of an airport. So, you want to put art in just those right spaces. But it's hard when you also realize you have to feed people and they have needs and shopping. And so how are you trying to create spaces where it can all share and balance without contradicting one another? And so this project was a great effort to go through and start to think about what that is going to be for the future as we continue down this path of growth.
Absolutely. So when we were working on that plan together, like you mentioned, things we were thinking about were increasing revenue for the airport, elevating the brand, creating a buzz of, new exhibitions or art installations that people might want to go see, creating a unique sense of place that feels like Colorado when you're there as a passenger, um, supporting intuitive wayfinding, which we talked about.
Absolutely.
Um, Enriching these great entertainment areas and relaxation zones, and really engaging the greater community and the greater city. So, when you're working on a project like that, developing this long range plan, of course, there are opportunities and maybe even surprises along the way in the process. Was there anything that you discovered or that you could share about the process that we went through together?
Yeah. Well, I think, one of the big things for us is trying to have more kind of rotating exhibits. And I think through this, we were able to identify some spots in some of our areas that are being newly constructed that are going to be great to be able to showcase more of a variety of art and artists. And so that's going to be very exciting for us. There are some areas that were unusually, we've had some very large installations. One of them that we did de-access on the sea concourse because of needing to do some infill and to create more space, and that was a hard thing to do. But I think we also ended up with some really great ideas to how to sort of reimagine some of these spaces and to create some quiet zones for people where they get to have that space, enjoy it outside of the sort of hustle and bustle of the rest of the airport. And then also the thing that you touched on was really using art as wayfinding. We're going to have a piece in the Great Hall that is going to be pretty exceptional. And it's going to be one of those pieces that when you come up from security, you'll know, gosh, I will meet you there because it's going to be so notable. And so using art in a different way to help sort of drive people, help them on their journey through the airport, and create those markers is going to be a big part of where we're going in the future.
Yes, absolutely. And so it's this combination, right? When you're doing wayfinding, you have this combination of landmark, iconic installations that are at very significant moments that might even help you find a place to meet your friends or your family or where you're going, like this one you're describing in the Great Hall that we'll hopefully be able to share more news about in the future. But so there's some really significant, iconic markers. And then there are things that help your journey along the way and help provide entertainment and intrigue and interest where you can learn more about the local culture. So for example, one of the temporary exhibits is Colorado clay that's going on. Hopefully that'll still be up by the time that this episode releases, because it's really a wonderful exhibit showing a number of different artists from across the state and the city of Denver who work in all different forms, we all using clay. So pretty exciting to see things like that. And they're in smaller kind of human scale display boxes. So we have everything from these iconic wayfinding monumental moments to human scale, smaller installations where you can slow down, read, and learn more about what's happening in our city and our state in arts and culture.
Absolutely. And, I should also note that it doesn't just kind of end in the art world. We also have performances. So
Yeah.
in the summer months, we put out a park on our plaza that's located between the terminal and our Westin Hotel. And so it's just a nice space. It's AstroTurf and comfortable seating. And we play music. And on Fridays, um, every couple of weeks, we have a jazz band or jazz trio or something like that playing on a Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. when, people are heading out for long weekends, so that we can also enjoy local music here at the airport.
Well, all of those things combined, I think, come together to really help people on their journey for however long they might be coming through the airport, whether they're in a hurry, whether they've got 8 hours to spend to ride around on the carts. I think there's really something for every passenger and every traveler who's coming through the airport. So
I would
it's
agree.
exciting to see what you've built, and then of course what is to come as the different parts and layers get revealed over the next 5 or 6 years.
Oh, it's so true. And I cannot wait to make these announcements because we've got some really exciting work coming.
As you think about the future, are there other airports that you look to and you say, gosh, they've really done an excellent job, and we want to incorporate some of the things that this airport has accomplished? Because I'm sure you get to travel and see airports all over the world. Are there
Yeah.
some that really stand out to you that you look to as guideposts?
Yeah, I think the two that come to mind, from a domestic airport, San Francisco, SFO just is sort of dreamy when it comes to art and their investment and everything that they do at the airport. They do it to a scale that is far beyond where we are. They have all this really great space. And so I always love traveling through there and spending time to kind of see what's new and what they're doing. On, I would say, an international scale, one of the airports that I really like that does a lot with cool international sculptors and others is Incheon Airport in
Hmm.
Seoul. And I think they have a really incredible art program as well.
Oh, how cool. Well, I've never been to the one in Seoul, but that sounds like an amazing destination and a great place to fly through. And for our listeners, if you haven't been through the San Francisco airport, check out their art collection. It really is incredible, almost as great as Denver International Airport. And San Francisco's airport is the only airport domestically that is classified as a museum. So it's pretty unique in that regard. What role does art and culture play in the work that you're doing every single day? I mean, how often are you thinking about it? How often is it coming into your day-to-day work?
Gosh, I think, the opportunities there are endless. We're always trying to think ahead. of, what's coming up in the next season and how do we outdo ourselves over and over again. On Ansbacher Hall, which is where you see the sort of row of cases where we highlight Colorado clay that you just mentioned, we try to really focus on cultural things in Colorado. And so you're constantly thinking, we've done exhibits on the beer industry here in the microbrew industry. We've done exhibits on agriculture, on winter festivals, all of these things going on in Colorado, and trying to focus not just in the Denver metro area, but even on some of these little towns across the state that have really unique things going on. And so, we feel a responsibility to all of these cultural institutions and to help promote the great work going on in Colorado. And so that's something that's tough, trying to constantly, one up that and come up with those ideas. So definitely, if anyone has ideas for us, please send them our way, because that's always helpful too. There's a lot going on. And then we have another space that we highlight photography and Colorado artists in that area. So it's
is that the Colorado Through the Seasons
yeah,
program? Yeah.
each space has their own kind of areas that we try to refocus. But we have a great team that works on this. They're so creative and so fun. And I feel so blessed to be able to work around all of these people that are helping and contributing to the art and culture community in Colorado.
Well, it's really unique that you get to showcase things about our state, ranging from things looking at history in those exhibit spaces like Western Heritage, to contemporary artists working in clay, to photography through the seasons, different views of Colorado, and truly the impact of, hitting over 70 million people is greater than what most museums see. So the cool thing is that, you're able to create an opportunity for everyone to engage in the art and culture of Denver and of Colorado. So it's a pretty unique opportunity that you have, and we feel very fortunate to have been a part of it.
Yes. Well, we appreciate the work and helping us, plan for the future to make sure that we're being innovative and thinking of the right things to do.
Absolutely. Well, I love to ask everyone who joins us on ... to tell us about a piece of artwork or a personal art experience that you had, like maybe a concert or a play, a work of architecture or a museum visit, something that made an impression on you or was especially memorable.
Oh, yeah. So I will say, that was a tough one for me, but I can think back to one time. So many years ago, when President Clinton was still in office, I was on a trip to Washington, D.C. with a girlfriend and had an opportunity to take a tour of the White House and got to be into the Oval Office. And in that moment, I remember just being kind of awestruck by a painting called Avenue in the Rain. And it was by Child Hassam, who was an impressionist, painter. And I believe this piece was painted like in the early 1900s. And a couple of presidents since kept it in the Oval Office. I don't believe it's in there right now. But it was just this really beautiful painting of flags and, flags in the rain. And it always kind of struck me because, when you're in Washington, D.C., you feel this feeling of patriotism and so proud to be in this great country. And it was that moment in time that really kind of stood out to me. And I've been kind of obsessed with that painting ever since.
What an incredible experience to be able to go on that tour. And I love that the art piece that you saw there, the painting that you saw, became part of the memory of the place and the significance of it.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I'm sure people listening today will want to learn more about you and the work that you're doing out at Denver International Airport. So if our listeners want to find you or learn more about you, what's the best place for them to go?
So best place is if you go to flydenver.com, we have, many email addresses on how to sort of reach us. You can search me, Stacey Stegman, anytime, stacy.stegman@flydenver.com. I love to hear from anyone that has questions or, anything related to the airport. I'm so proud and get to work for one of the best airports in the world. And, We have so much to share. So I just want to personally also thank you for having me on today. And I should also mention we're all over social media as well. So anytime you want to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any of the above, we are responsive and would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Stacey. It's really incredible to hear your perspective because what you do is so unique and impacts so many people. So thank you for bringing the art and culture of our state to in the international travelers of the world that come through Denver International Airport. And we'll certainly share links where you can learn more about the collection out at Denver International Airport and where you can see what's happening out there into the future. So keep your eyes on it and take a look at what Stacey's doing and follow along. Thanks again.
Thank you, Martha.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to ... today. And for more information about our guest and what we chatted about, check out our show notes at 9.arts.com/podcast. Keep in mind that's 9.arts spelled out.com/podcast. And to keep up with our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to 9.arts on YouTube or subscribe to ... wherever you get your podcasts. If you're looking to transform your next project with art, please email us, letstalk@9.arts.com. And here's to wishing you continued creativity. Until next time.